All right, we're about to jump into a story that honestly sounds like it's been ripped straight from the pages of history, or maybe even a Hollywood script. We're talking about a city in absolute chaos, a truly shocking miracle, and a sacred chant that was said to have been delivered directly from heaven itself. I mean, that's a pretty bold question, isn't it? But, there's this incredible story from way back in the 5th century that offers a pretty startling answer. So let's get right into it. Okay, so to set the scene, our story takes us to the very heart of the Eastern Roman Empire, the great city of Constantinople, a place of immense power and wealth. But right now, at this specific moment, it's a city gripped by absolute terror. The year is 447 AD, and the emperor, a man named Theodosius the Younger, is completely helpless as he watches his own capital city get shaken to its very foundations. And look, this wasn't just some minor tremor. I want you to try and imagine this. 6 straight months of violent, non-stop shaking. The historical sources tell us that entire cities were swallowed whole by the earth. The sea was thrown into chaos. The very landscape was being remade. It was so terrifying that the people just abandoned the city and fled for their lives into the open fields. So you've got the emperor, the patriarch, all the people gathered together in a field just praying for deliverance. And then something absolutely impossible happens. Right there, in full view of everyone, a small child is just lifted from the ground and pulled up into the sky until he completely vanishes from sight. You can just imagine the crowd, right? Watching in stunned silence. Where did the boy go? What on earth could this possibly mean? And then, after what felt like forever, the boy gently descends back down to the ground. He's alive! And he's got a message. He tells the absolutely astonished crowd that he was taken up into the heavens where he actually heard choirs of angels singing a very specific hymn. And these were the words, "Holy God, holy mighty, holy immortal, have mercy on us." The angels, he said, had commanded him to teach this exact prayer to the people back on earth. And here's where the story takes a really solemn turn. As soon as the child finished delivering this angelic message, he died. There was no time to lose. The patriarch, the city's highest-ranking bishop, St. Proclus, immediately commanded everyone to start chanting the words they had just been taught. And as the sound of this chant starts to rise from the crowd, the impossible happens again. The shaking just stopped. The ground, which had been trembling for 6 long months, fell completely silent. The earthquake was over. Wow. I mean, a miraculous prayer delivered by an angel, passed on through a child. It's just an incredible story. But believe it or not, the roots of this prayer go even deeper. So that raises a question, right? Was this the very first time these words had ever been heard? Well, the answer actually takes us centuries earlier, all the way back to the pages of the Old Testament. This powerful prayer came to be known as the Trisagio, which literally just means 3 times holy. And that name is a direct clue to its most ancient origins. So it turns out, this chant is much older. Centuries before the earthquake in Constantinople, the prophet Isaiah had this incredible mystical vision of heaven. And in that vision, he described seeing angelic beings, the seraphim, circling God's throne and crying out, "Holy, holy, holy." This is where that prayer really began. So, from a prophet's vision to a city's salvation, the Trisagio really became a cornerstone of Christian devotion, and its legacy is fascinating. You can basically see its journey right here. It starts with Isaiah's vision, then it gets this massive fame boost during the earthquake in 44-7. And then, get this, just 4 years later, the really powerful Council of Chalcedon made it official, prescribing it for all Christians. Its legacy has just kept going, championed by even modern saints like Padre Pio in the 20th century. To help people with this devotion, a special rosary was even created. What you're looking at here is a Trinitarian rosary, and it's designed for one purpose: praying the Trisagio. And according to our source, actually finding one of these today is pretty rare. Let's get a closer look at the detail here. The front of the medal shows an image representing the Holy Trinity, the Christian concept of God as Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And then if you flip it over to the back, you can see the opening words of the prayer, Santo Dios, Santo Fuerte, Santo Inmortal, inscribed in this beautiful Old Spanish. Now, this is more than just a historical artifact. For believers, this prayer holds immense power. It's been described as a kind of spiritual tool, an impenetrable shield against all kinds of calamities and evils. That's a pretty powerful legacy, born from a moment of total crisis. So, after all that incredible history, you might be wondering, okay, but how do people actually use this prayer today? Well, while the full devotion can actually be quite long, there's a simplified short mode that uses this Trinitarian rosary. It's pretty straightforward. You'd start at the cross with an invocation. Step 2 is on these first 3 beads here. Then, as you can see in steps 3 and 4, you move through the larger sets of beads, reciting the core parts of the prayer. So, Holy God, Holy Mighty on the large beads, and then you repeat Holy, Holy, Holy on the smaller ones. It's a very structured and meditative practice, really designed to focus the mind. So when you step back and look at it, the journey of this one prayer is truly extraordinary. I mean, it goes from a prophet's vision in the Old Testament to a celestial message during a 5th century crisis, and becomes this devotion that's been preserved and practiced for over 1,500 years. And that kind of leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it? It's a story of faith meeting crisis head-on. And whether you see it as pure history, a genuine miracle, or even just a powerful metaphor, it really makes you wonder about the enduring power of these ancient traditions and our own modern and, let's face it, often uncertain world. It's definitely something to think about.